Uniqueka, my friend, welcome to my show, Leadership and Personal Branding. I know you have a lot of experience from having a major in journalism and your experience in personal branding. I know many people are going to learn from you, and from what you've done, your self-leadership is going to influence many of them watching today. I sent you two questions. One of them was, how will you define your personal brand? And the second question was, what is your personal brand symbol and how do you use it every day in your life? But before we start, why don't you introduce yourself so that people can know who you are?
Thank you for the warm introduction. My name is Uniqueka Walcott. I'm a billion-dollar bid writer. I'm a personal branding enthusiast. I am super excited to launch my upcoming masterclass to teach you the things that have allowed me to be featured twice in the Baltimore Sun, to have multiple speaking engagements around things ranging from DEI to AI, to proposal management and writing best practices. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I think people are going to learn a lot from you. I haven't interviewed somebody who is a personal branding expert and somebody who I have asked these two questions. They're all related to personal branding, but more on the self-discovery, self-leadership, and charting a path to breakthrough success. And I know you're just going to do that today for us. Everybody will learn from you. So how would you define your personal brand?
Well, I like to define my personal brand, and I teach this in my masterclass. A personal brand is an authentic expression of yourself. A lot of times we think of personal brands, we think about all these really cute Instagrammable moments where people have curated this content that is not really reflexive of their real life. And so when I start my course, one of the things I ask people to do on the 4 steps for the course is to take a moment to really do some self-reflection and evaluation. And so we talk about, what are you good at? What do your friends say you're good at? What things can you do that light you up? Because the last thing I want to do is teach people to create a personal brand that they want to burn down in 6 months, because it's not who they are. It's who they have to pretend to be. Being fake is not sustainable, is one of my good friends has said. And so that is one of the key parts of why I teach the class the way I teach it, because I want people to understand that, like, I didn't wake up and just decide I had a personal brand. This is something that I've been intentionally developing for the last 10 years. It's a byproduct of my studies in journalism at Georgia State University, where I earned my bachelor's in journalism with a focus in public relations. So I finished that, more than a decade ago, magna cum laude. And unfortunately, there were no jobs. And so that's where the success element comes in. You go, oh, you've had 5 internships, you've got incredible grades, but there's no job for you in journalism. What do you do next? I feel like a lot of young professionals are faced with that same challenge right now, as well as a lot of people who are faced with layoffs. And so I think this is one of those opportunities where you get to redefine yourself for you and not based on your job title. And so that's also kind of related to one of the key elements of my brand. About 2 years ago, I had a podcast. I spoke to 50 people from as close by as Atlanta to as far as Australia, and we explored their whole career journey with them. And so the whole premise of the conversation was really about, who are you outside of your job title? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? What makes you great at this? What were the breadcrumbs that led you to making a decision to be a mortician, which is not a typical career, but those are paths that are available to us. And I think it's really important to just illuminate who people are at their core and allow them to elevate themselves and to grow in success because of who you are. I shared with a friend recently. I said, my goal is to grow a business that gets me paid for being who I am, not necessarily surrounded around, okay, well, this is the thing that I must do because it's the perfect instruction. I think that sometimes we get very hung up on formula of A plus B equals C. And the reality is, you can get good grades in high school, still not leave for college on time. This is my own personal story. And still then go to college, take 5 or 6 years instead of the 4 scheduled. Like, nothing about my life has unfolded the way we were taught that things should happen. But I have so much joy and so much peace because of the opportunities that are afforded me, because of the relationships I've built. And that has been the core of building my personal brand. And so I'm currently in a period of transition, and I think this aligns with the idea for people being their authentic selves is I've grown as a person, my brain has changed. And so years ago, you might have encountered me teaching my personal branding class, and I may have told you my 3 pillars of success are resilience, reading, and relationships. And while those 3 things remain important to me, I would not call them pillars of success for me in this stage of my life where I'm less focused on resilience. I want to be in environments that do not require me to constantly overcome. I want to be in places where I'm celebrated and elevated to be my highest and best self. And so that's a part of the class that I teach. I say to people, I think it's probably the last slide in my deck. I say, you reserve the right to change your mind because it's important for people to grow. If you are not growing, how can you evolve into becoming the best version of yourself, the thing you've envisioned for yourself? And so that's another core element of how I teach personal branding to people, because I want them to feel like, okay, just because this is what I was doing 2 years ago, hosting career conversations, I've got to always do that because that's what people know me for. And I've had people for the last 2 years come to me and go, I missed your show. Where has it been? And I said, I let people know I genuinely appreciate your enthusiasm. I think that it's important that what I did, was helpful to you. I said, but in this season, I'm focused on something different. I have more to offer. And I think it's okay for you to talk to people and tell them, look, this was a season and I'm not saying the door's forever closed, but this is where I am now. Will you join me?
Yes. Thank you very much. I think we have one thing in common. My avatar persona is mid-level professional seeking career advancement. So, and I see your YouTube channel that you started is also about career. So we both know many people who are in their career. Sometimes they keep working, and at some point they reach a point where they are not fulfilled or they think that they haven't reached where they need to be. So then you see this element of being stuck, or they are almost like invisible in what they are doing. And you are teaching them how to break out of that. And so if I can summarize, is your personal brand, the way you define your personal branding is through success, resilience, and you mentioned the third one. Can you repeat the third one?
Oh, I mentioned reading, resilience, and relationships. And I think that in this season, I think it's just being is really how I'm defining my brand. What feels good and natural to me as a human being.
Okay, so I got it. So your authentic self is your personal brand. You are being. So
Mhm.
very good. I think what you are teaching, like I said, is aligned with kind of the problem I'm trying to solve also. And
Mhm.
through self-leadership, people are going to resonate with what you're teaching. And many people are going to be inspired by your your path that you are shaping and the career success that you've had and your authentic personal brand. Can you, I know you've mentioned about your last slide, and I don't know the beginning, how you start to communicate this message to them, and also how people are responding to it. So tell me more about how you start and finish and how people are resonating to this. Are you seeing resistance in accepting what you're teaching?
No, people love it. In fact, the last time I taught this course live to a group, I got a few text messages and emails from people like, wow, this was so good. I really enjoyed the class. I bring a lot of humor and jest to the way I teach because I want people to feel like this is a conversation, not a moment of me dictating of like, you must absolutely do it this way, because the intention is for you to show up as your real self. And so the first thing we do in this class, after I introduce myself and give people a hint of credentials and why they should, hear me out on this topic, we first take that personal inventory I mentioned. So step one is taking an inventory. What are you good at? What do you enjoy? What is important to you for people to know? And so I walk people through the steps of like, as a result of your interactions with folks, what do you want them to know about you? How do you want them to feel? And what do you want them to do? And so that know, feel, do structure kind of guides the rest of the interactions they have with folks. So then we move to step two, which is giving. I think a lot of people oftentimes will approach personal branding from the mindset of personal gain. What can I get out of this? What can I get out of this? I have found that giving is a super powerful tool in your kit that can help you to connect with folks that you probably wouldn't have considered before. Because a lot of times I feel like culture has driven us to a place where we are often evaluating folks on, the basis of what they drive or what company they work for. And that's how we decide to assign value, or we decide, oh, CEO is the most important person in the room. One of the things that I learned many years ago as an intern in New York at a media sales internship was that the most important people in the room were generally the people sitting next to me. And so that has been a huge asset in being able to build my career. I think back to when I was looking to make a move. I was trying to leave Atlanta and move to Maryland, where my husband lived, then boyfriend at the time. We were just trying to figure out what was next. And so now, 10 years later, together, happily married. But the asset that was a product of that was the relationship I had with fellow interns. I was able to call some of them who lived locally and say, hey, could you help me find a job? And so they gave me referrals, and I was able to show up to interviews. And that was the key. Like, I go back to my relationships being one of those core values that hasn't left. Those relationships have been the catalyst to move me in different directions. So a lot of people get into rooms and they're looking to make nice with the CEO. So the person next to you is often the key, especially early mid-career, because you don't know where they're going next and how that might fit into the puzzle you're trying to build. So maintaining those relationships has been vital. So that's part of step one, inventory. Step two, giving and building those relationships. Step three is about building out your in-person and digital presence. And so I put an emphasis on in-person because I think that we have lost the magic of getting in touch with each other face to face, especially post-COVID. And so I invite people to explore professional organization memberships. And I also invite people to look at in things that are outside of your industry, things that might be adjacent. So for example, I am not a data scientist, but I am going to be at a data science conference later this year because I think it's important for me to connect with those people. Data science is an important element around AI and how it's being created and built. And so I think that those relationships and opportunities are going to deepen my understanding of what is possible when I go to speak, later, even further in the year about AI use in the proposal development space. I've been using AI in my proposals for a while, but I think that there's more opportunity for it to be used in different ways across the industry. So some of the things I've done in my personal life, not necessarily for work, have been to use AI to make short video snippets, to be able to produce GIFs and all kinds of different creative tools to build landing pages. And so there's so much opportunity at the intersection of those tools and ideas. And so that's what I invite my my students to do in the masterclass. I say, look, explore beyond your industry. So yes, if you're an accountant, you want to join, the national, organizations or the local chapters associated with your profession. For me, as a proposal manager and writer, I'm a part of Proposal Industry Experts. I served on their board of directors for 2 years. I've been a part of Society for Marketing Professional Services for probably nearly a decade at this point. I've served on different boards and committees for them. And all of those opportunities have been incredible catalysts for me to have relationships with folks. Like, it was great to go to a joint engineering conference earlier this year and to see some of my mentors and people that I met a decade ago who were like so proud of me and the things that I've accomplished since they remember being, me being a baby in the industry and still trying to figure out what is an RFP. And now to the place where I'm educated and teaching interns and hosting them. So that's been an important part of the course is the relationship building, getting out in person, building out your relationships. And I'm giving these examples because I want people to know that I practice what I'm teaching.
Yeah.
And so the fourth step is beyond the in-person and the digital, is to reserve the right to change your mind. And I tell that to people because I think that we have gotten to a place where people are comfortable being, keyboard bullies and, oh, well, last week you said this and that. And so I tell people often, they go, when I'm in transition and I think I want to shift into a different topic, because for a while people knew me strictly for proposals. It's not been until the last year that I've really started to lean into AI. Before that, I was really leaning into diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially as a part of SMPS's National Task Force for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So people were like, well, you're all confused. I was like, I don't think it's confusion. I think that it speaks to our humanness and our ability to adapt and to explore different ideas and to study and to develop expertise. And so one of the things that I've been very adamant about, though, is when people go, are you an AI expert? I said, let me be very clear. I don't have the audacity to call myself an AI expert. AI experts are people who have PhDs in machine learning, and I know some of these incredible people, and I deeply admire their expertise. I don't think that that's what I'm trying to help people understand. I tell people my expertise is the intersection of technology, such as AI, such as machine learning, and marketing. And so when I explain that to people, then the light bulb goes off. They go, "Oh, this is what she's really speaking to." And so I don't want to give people the impression like I can come in and build an LLM for you. That's what an expert in AI would do. So that's kind of, I think, in a nutshell, my four sort of steps is take an inventory, develop a personal brand impact statement, move from that statement, talk about, okay, where do I want to show up digitally? Is LinkedIn the right platform for me? Should I be on Instagram? Is four platforms too many to manage? Then we move into where do you show up in person? We decide, okay, what organization should you be a part of? And not every organization has to be associated with your profession. That's your first three steps: the giving, the inventory, and then reserving the right to change your mind, because I think that that's a step that's neglected. We all talk about how to make a beautiful LinkedIn banner and write a wonderful bio. We don't talk about, well, when things change in my life and my identity changes, we're comfortable with giving license that people have an identity changes when they change job titles or become a mother or a father. What if you just decided your commitment is to growth, and so as a byproduct you are going to change? And so if you communicate that with your audience, I think that you tend to gain more respect from people. Just being honest.
Yeah, I agree. I agree very much. I think you've touched on a few things which are key to building a reputation or a personal brand, and also building your personal brand in the service of others. And what you mentioned, there's this one quote I keep saying, I say it almost in every show I host for people. Simply showing up will lead to chance meetings. And this is a quote by Dr. Mansour. Is the author of the book Bring Inner Greatness Out, Personal Brand. That's a great book. I wish most people will read it. You know how you're saying people have to go through a self-inventory and then build from there. The book will kind of walk you through those steps. And actually, that's where I got the idea of a personal brand symbol, which we are going to get to in a second. But what you mentioned there is going to these conferences, going to network. I think you are even going to engineering conferences, and you're going into AI conferences, and you're just becoming relevant in the fields that you are interested in, being you, going out there, putting yourself out there so that you can keep being connected. And I think that's a powerful way to teach people to start seeing, not for them to go and see how others are, but for them to study their surrounding and also build their own unique personal brand, the way in their own way. So thanks very much for sharing that and going through those steps. Regarding AI, most people who are wanting to get into personal branding, they find it difficult to communicate every day, to share what they need to share. And now with AI, people can, like the personal brand symbol question, the second question I gave, as long as you know your personal, how you define your personal brand, and if you have done your self-discovery and you can connect the dots from the past into the future, you can explain that in AI, and it can give you options of what it could be, because it's a tough question to think about. But if you want to go that route, but you don't need AI to know your personal brand symbol. Already, whatever it is already in front of you. And you just need to keep exploring, and people will let you know, or you will find out yourself. Most of the time, what we seek things elsewhere until we are redirected back to ourselves, where our intrinsic value is much, much greater than what we think is out there. And that's where I also teach people or tell people where to start to believe in their unique potential. So thanks for sharing that. And your experience, you don't have you are going to engineering conference, but you have no, it's not like you've studied like engineering or anything, right?
No, I'm not an engineer, but like for the last
Yeah.
10 years, I've been a proposal manager and writer at engineering firms, from
Yeah.
small size firms of 50 people to 50,000 people. And so that is a part of why I'm so engaged in that particular industry. It helps me to understand better what I'm interpreting for a subject matter expert when I'm trying to impress the government client and say, hey, we're the right choice because, and you've got, 30 other firms that are going to say the same thing in so many words. And so this is also where I feel like personal branding is highly effective. It's an opportunity for you to demonstrate your personhood. And so people like to work with people they enjoy. And so if you can give people the inkling that you've got shared values, it really helps. Um, I love the mention of the book though you said, and you talked about how you help people to really tap into their intrinsic unique value. I think that is so core
Yeah.
to being effective. I think that the more that I lean into being myself, the more magnetic I become. I was kind of teasing somebody last week. I said, I go out to, dinner or different places and people kind of walk up to me and they tap me and they want to talk to me. And it's the strangest thing. I was like, I'm not like a local celebrity or anything, but people want to they're kind of just drawn in. And I think that is because I'm more of myself.
Yeah.
And so that's why I encourage people to also kind of unlock that superpower. Um, and
Yeah.
communicating what I care about. Yeah, I think has been helpful. I've been able to, connect the dots in my career that way. Being present on LinkedIn has helped me find my next, career opportunity on occasion. I've had people reach out and say, hey, I recognize your value in this area. We've got an opportunity. Would you be interested? And it's always been my mindset, unless it's clearly just something that's grossly misaligned with my personal goals and value. I'm like, it's worth a 15-minute conversation. Let's chat. And
Yeah.
that's how I tend to operate. And you tend to find, if you even if it's not right fit, it's a really good opportunity to meet good people.
Yeah.
And that's something I've really enjoyed. Perfect example. A few weeks ago, I was up kind of early on a Saturday scrolling LinkedIn a little, and I came across someone who commented on one of my posts. There was the post was about from someone else. They said, "Hey, could you, identify Black-owned businesses that you'd like to celebrate?" And so I like tagged like 5 or 6 of like my favorite brands and companies. And these aren't necessarily big household names of companies you would know, like
Yeah.
HBCU Legacy, Pie Down the Hair Collection, all these different companies. And so then the Carlotta said, you understood the assignment here. And so somehow we ended up chatting in DMs. It's Saturday. She's like, oh, by the way, I'm in Orlando. She's based in another city. I said, are you? I feel like you, I said, I've got this really gut feeling you're somebody I need to actually know. I said, would you be open to brunch? And so she and I had brunch the next day. Like, and so it could be that simple in terms of just kind of building
Yes.
those connections out. I think sometimes people make it hard. You and I connected on LinkedIn. I saw you were looking for podcast guests. I said, I would love to talk about personal branding. It's one of those things I'm really passionate about. So thank you so much for having me, Felix. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah. And you see, my tagline there is skill in action, build a lifetime fortune worry free. I did not finish it there, but a lifetime fortune worry free. And you took action. You took action to reach out to me, asking to be on the podcast. So thank you very much for coming to my show. So if I can summarize, if you tap into your unique potential, your intrinsic value, you will see magic. And the process that you are teaching people, they are going to benefit from that. So keep doing that. Keep being your authentic self in your personal branding masterclass and what you teach them. And I think now I can connect the dots. You're going into the conferences. Some of your target audience are there. Most people are building personal brand, but they're not meeting their target audience halfway. They're not asking them, let's go for a brunch or a coffee. So keep being you, and I know you're going to do great things. I'm looking forward to seeing one of your master classes. So
Oh.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure you get the link as soon as it drops. I've got a few more minor touches to the editing before I release it. So my goal is to actually set up an email list this week so that people can be on the list to know first. So if you
Yeah.
follow me on LinkedIn, be on the lookout for that update.
Yeah, thanks. So to the second question, I know I've seen this in LinkedIn, but I just wanted to confirm, what does $1 billion bid writer mean? But can you can you tell me, what is your personal brand symbol and how do you use it every day?
Okay. This little mug right here says billion dollar bid writer. So I'm going to answer your first question. What does billion dollar bid writer mean? So over a decade in my career, I have won more than $1 billion in proposals on behalf of various companies in the engineering space. And
Yeah.
so I was really, really hesitant to actually put this tagline out in public, but it kept coming back to me. I would mention, okay, I've got $1 billion in wins to like just kind of friends. We're talking about preparing career notes. How do we navigate office politics?
Yeah.
And somewhere in the conversations, they would keep going, but like $1 billion? Like how? And so I was like, there's something here that's sticky that I'm not taking advantage of. And so I finally got the courage maybe a month ago to just change my LinkedIn banner to my headline to say billion dollar bid writer. And as a result, every week since I put it up, someone has emailed me or called me and said, what does that mean? I like it. That's bold.
Yes.
And so as a
Yeah.
byproduct of that, I said, okay, I need to remind myself to celebrate my own success and to not shrink. And so that's where you have this little cute mug I got, and this is actually the prototype. Don't have a bunch of them. Somebody already asked me, can they order one? So that's on my to-do list. And what I like about this prototype is it's not perfect. You can't see this necessarily on the screen, but like the logo is not quite the quality I want. The weight of the mug's not quite it, but I like it because it reminds me that I don't have to be perfect to get started, that my capacity is not somehow diminished because I'm not perfect. God made me exactly who I need to be. And so
Yeah.
that is why this is my personal brand symbol right now, because as I am creating the vision that has been inside of me, I am reminding myself that I'm enough today. Just like this mug is suitable to hold my hot tea that I enjoy so much. Like it's not suddenly unfit because it's not exactly how I envisioned it. I
Yeah.
think that, it's an opportunity also for me to remind people, go, okay, well, I don't have the perfect, LinkedIn tagline or banner. Like, it's okay to get started. Like, that's really the grace that's necessary for us to be effective and successful. And so for me, this mug is not just about like holding the hot tea I enjoy or encouraging myself to remind myself of my success and accomplishments, in spite of whatever obstacles I faced. And I won't get into those today professionally, but to really just know that like I'm enough. And so that's really what the symbol is about. As a billion-dollar bid writer, I think sometimes you can downplay your success, downplay the asset that you are to a company, especially when, perhaps you don't feel like you are being paid or treated commensurate to what you bring in value. And so what you have to do is you have to take back the yardstick.
Yes. Yeah. Can you
And
show the
so,
can you show the cup one more time? I just want to see what the
oh,
writing says. If you
oh,
maybe right in front of, right there. Yeah, $1 billion bid writer. Okay. I
yeah.
like
So,
what you I like what you I like what you said earlier about when you put it in on LinkedIn, people started reaching out to you. So
mhm,
it's almost like I want to be $1 billion bid writer. So everybody wants to be that, and they're trying to ask you, what is that? What is that? So, and that's the power of the personal brand symbol, and
mhm,
it causes intrigue also, and it's a conversation starter. How many times people reach out to you and you don't like how they are like reaching out to you in DMs? But if they reach out to you because of, hey, what is this? Then you have a
mhm,
question to respond to. So that's why I think it's a powerful personal brand symbol, and I think there's more to it. It can be half full or half empty. It depends on how you see it. So
mhm.
yeah. Anything else you want to say about, I know you said you don't want to get into the, so you said one thing that I want to make sure it's also the people watching understand this. You mentioned something about how sometimes maybe you haven't been compensated to your worth the way you think it is, for example. And there's many people
Mhm.
like that. There's many people that think that way, and there is many things they could do to get actually to get there. So I know, and you've taken action. You've taken action to kind of reverse that. You've taken what I want to call like a self-leadership. You are leading yourself to the outcome that you want. Like even if the outcome is, when sometimes people know that the outcome is not good and they let it become not good. But what they don't know is actually we can change it. We can change the outcome so that everything goes in your favor. It takes time. but eventually it can be changed. Yeah.
I love that you point out it takes time because my first job ever, this is before getting a degree and credential, I made $6, but that has taken time, that has taken intentional effort, that has taken reflection, self-development, that has taken accountability on
Yes.
on another level of going, so what is it that I do not know that I need to know? Have I asked questions to help myself understand what they deem as valuable? Does that align with who I am?
Yeah.
And making those tough decisions to sometimes leave a job where you might love the people, but you don't fit in.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you know what? I know I said I would avoid some of the things that I struggle with and grapple with, but I think it's important to be a bit vulnerable in this conversation, if that's okay with you.
Yes. Yeah. That's the point of this. I want people to be
Okay,
who they are, and
so
that's how you empower people.
yeah, so when I mentioned taking back the yardstick, one of the first things I noticed early in my career was that I had found myself replacing my love and addiction for like grades, because I was like always an A student, like, oh, get a B, what does that mean? Like it was terrible. And replacing that with the yardstick of my bosses and managers assessing my skill set. And it took a huge toll on me for a while, and it really was detrimental to my confidence. And so that's when I say take back the yardstick. You have to understand how you define success, and also recognize that just because someone didn't give you a raise or a promotion does not mean you were suddenly less valuable. But some of the things that I have faced with, I think a lot of us are faced with it, and I think that in this current election cycle, one of the first things that came up when there was the shift in candidacy was America does not love Black women, that she's going to face the next level of vitriol. And I think that so many of us relate to that. We've dealt with sexism and racism in different forms at work. And there was a point where I was so hurt and so not okay. Like I got into a place of being suicidal, and I didn't have the courage to leave this place. And in leaving, there was the idea of, okay, I was scared I would find something that was just as bad or worse. But um looking back, like, I'm glad I found the courage to move on. I did not necessarily land in the best place going forward. I was like, this is still not right, it's better. But I think the thing is having the courage to keep going. I think it's so important. I think that sometimes we decide we've messed up and that we don't deserve to keep trying. So I want to remind people, like, not to give up on yourself or what you dream is possible. In fact, my personal brand impact statement is that I want people to to know um, that they are important, that their dreams are possible. I want them to feel significant. And I say significant instead of feel important, because I understand that importance is often this ranking and pecking order sort of ideology. Significance is purely because I am worthy. That is how I define significance.
Yeah.
And as a result of their interactions with me, I want people to live as though their dreams are possible. And so for me, showing up today is me sowing a seed into the dream I have for the life I want to create for myself. And
Yeah.
so I'm here sharing what I have learned that has helped me create the life I have now, the one that 5-year-old me couldn't imagine of being a wife, being a homeowner, being a business owner, having a career behind myself where I've had $1 billion in impact. And that $1 billion isn't just money earned to farms. This is money that is now going to make sure that places, that are historically significant are being preserved, that roadways and bridges are now safe to cross, that there are roads and bridges to places that people need to be. Like, that is the work that I get to do every day. Really, even, and that's, focused on
Yeah.
environmental services. Those are the sorts of things that I've been able to do. Is, okay, is beach erosion a problem? Let's fix it. Currently, my focus right now is disaster recovery. So when hurricanes come, who are we calling? Like, I'm the person putting those proposals in place so that people have contracts, vehicles in place, so that when they say we need, 1,000 people to come out and help support these people in their the darkest day, we've got the right purpose and people in place, not just anybody who decided today they wanted to be a disaster recovery manager. These are people with decades of experience. And so being a $1 billion bid writer is a very minute way to measure the impact of the work that I get to do every day.
Yes, that's such a powerful statement and story that I think most people can relate to, and some people are still stuck in those areas. Watch like the different challenges that you've gone through. they are stuck. And I know them hearing your story, how you have overcome how you have been treated, and now how you have overcome that, and what you're doing to keep going for more. It's just going to empower them. The point of this one is to also be personal story. Part of the personal branding is to share personal stories. And that's actually what it can evoke emotion in others, and it can help wake up anybody who is asleep in something that is not good for them. So Uniqueka, you've shared a very powerful story, how your own lived experiences have shaped you to whom you've become, and to developing a personal brand symbol that guides you every day, reminds you of how far you've come along. And it's almost, to me, it's like is your fuel, is driving you forward, and you're connecting the dots into the future. And I think the story you've shared is so powerful. If I know you've mentioned that the experiences that you are going through almost made you feel like suicidal, and that's a big problem in our society today. Not a problem, but a big issue and concern, where most people could be feeling this way. And you found a way out of it through your own journey, your personal branding journey, self-discovery, and a focus on breakthrough success. If you want to share more about your personal brand symbol and what you're about to say now, I think that will be even be more powerful for the people watching right now to
Yes.
benefit and
So,
take action.
Yeah, it's a coffee mug. It's got, language on it, but I will tell you there's something special in this mug, and it's not tequila, guys. So actually today I made a specialty for myself. One of my really good friends, in fact, she was a member of Proposal Industry Expert. She's one of the founding members. And so at one point she was so compelled by my contributions to the organization as a member of the board that she sent me a gift and a nice card that was like, you don't understand how much better off we all are because you were a part of this industry. And she also, in that package, sent me some tea. It's chocolate flavored. And it's something I'd never tried or heard of before, but I drink it today kind of just as an honor of how much impact, I'm able to make as a result of the fact that I didn't let go. I didn't decide that it was my time to go because I'd had enough about, people who did not value me and who did not see my impact. There are people that do. And it's important that we lean into those relationships, that we pick the phone up, we make those phone calls, or let people know when you're hurting. Like it is okay. In fact, a perfect example is just last week. I was having a very bad day, and I and I posted. I said, I'm having a really hard day. I said, my day has been so much better because I finally checked my voicemail, and my grandmother had left me the cutest message singing about how much she loves me, and I saved that voicemail because I might need it some days.
Yeah.
But I remind people like that our impact isn't always measured in billions of dollars. Like that's great, or even $2. Sometimes the impact is the kind words you can speak to people. And that's something I teach in my course,
Yeah.
that our impact is sometimes not measured in dollars and cents, or even in the praise that people may give you. So you have to take time to reflect. And that's also why I agreed to push forward today in the interview, because before I got prepared for this, I was so stressed. I was like, I got to do this, I got to do that. All these things have to be in order. And I said, well, what does your personal brand symbol say? It's got, fuzzy text on it you don't love. And it's got, little marks that just don't really jive with what you anticipated creating. I said, the same thing you're trying to teach people, you need to continue to exercise and flex that muscle. So whereas I might have been, worried that I'd have everything perfectly in order for the rebrand that I'm in the middle of, I was like, I have impact to offer. So let me show up. And that goes back to the quote you shared earlier about the importance of simply showing up. And so this has been an incredible opportunity for me to reflect, to remind myself of why I started this journey and why I'm continuing, because it's the little things that make such a big impact. Another recent example, and someone asked me this on LinkedIn recently, said, how do you measure impact? Because I posted about the importance of giving, and that giving does not always mean free, and it does not always mean money. And so they said, well, how do you measure it if it's not money? I said, sometimes it is in the people that are kind enough to come back and text me or email me and say, we were talking a few weeks ago and I was telling you I was in a career rut, and you just made to me it was offhand suggestion, but to them it meant something. I said, had you considered hiring a career coach? Well, this person went on and hired a career coach, and it's only been maybe a month since we had that conversation. And in that span, she has gone on to be, assigned much larger and greater meaningful tasks in her work. She feels much more empowered. But it was that small conversation we had. We had talked maybe once or twice before. We didn't have any sort of like long history, but
Yeah.
just simply being myself was enough.
Yes. Yeah. That's you were actually serving by doing that. You served somebody else. You gave something out of, you're not expecting anything in return. And
Yeah.
that's what most people don't realize also is I know I say that sometimes we look elsewhere until we start,
Mm-hmm.
until we are redirected back to ourselves. But when we come back to ourselves, we are able to discover who we truly are, understand what is missing, where to connect the dots, and reach out to the right resources. And coaching is one of them, mentoring is one of them, and just you say attending conferences is one of them. And by doing that, you are expanding your reach, and you don't know whom you are impacting, and you don't know who will actually save save you. I know nobody's coming to save anyone, but when you reach out, you're trying to save yourself. You literally
Mm-hmm.
get saved in many ways. So I agree with what you are sharing there, and how I also like LinkedIn, the way I connected with you on LinkedIn. I've never met you. I just showed up on LinkedIn and we met. And there's many examples like this. And I think I've thought of LinkedIn a lot. I actually advise people to join LinkedIn and do share whatever they need to share, because most
Mm-hmm.
people are kind of reserved in this area. So I see your post coming in every day. I was actually, when I was preparing for this, I was watching, tracking what is she going to post today.
Yeah, and it's
So
always a little bit of a mix. People are like, "Well, what do you talk about?" Whatever's on my mind sometimes is literally what
yeah,
gets posted. I don't have like a serious content calendar. I've got like 3 or 4 buckets of things I want to make sure I discuss regularly, but I'm not the content calendar girly of like, on Tuesdays we're going to talk about AI and on Thursdays we're going to talk about personal branding. Like that is just not in line with how I roll. I like to flow
yeah,
a little bit more. So I do what feels top of mind and reasonable for the people I interact with, and also just the things that cross my mind.
yeah,
Because sometimes the reminder is just a bit of encouragement. And so I might offer it to you guys, but I probably just said it to myself 10 minutes ago.
yeah. So, in your masterclass, or not like you need to, I think if you are authentic, like you're saying, I think it's going to come out soon in your masterclass when you're teaching it on stage, and you will
Yes, I
tell your
actually I
story.
have some stuff cooking for 2025. That announcement's coming. I'm holding it a little bit, but
Okay.
I got some opportunities brewing. So I'm
All
excited to
right.
share that stuff as it comes.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. So this one will be launching in 2025.
Oh, the class is going to be launched this year, 30 days tops. So we're going to have it out. So into August at the latest, it'll launch. The website will be up. Um, got conference Black Women in Data in September. For work, I've got an engineering conference in November. We're talking about AI.
Yeah.
I don't know what's next. I'm keeping an open mind and making sure that I navigate the relationships I have so that nothing causes any friction. And just having a good time.
The power of the compounding effect when you're intentionally working on something and very consistently delivering the outcomes that you're looking for, yeah, step by step, that is what compounds into, yeah, you mentioned that you don't know what's next, but actually the intentionality that you're doing is going to result into this something big, or like whichever one that is, you expect it to show up one day, but you don't know how, in what form it's going to show up. So
No,
that's yeah.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think about 3 years ago, it was probably 4 years ago now. I set an intention to be a speaker at a particular conference. And so the irony in this is I ended up speaking and I also ended up moderating a CEO panel. I only had the one small goal. I ended up with 2 opportunities at the same conference. So I got to moderate a conversation with 3 CEOs in our industry and also teach a class or I call cultural inheritances are powerful. And that one's a lot more personal of a story. Um, so yeah, I fully expect things to compound and for them to multiply. And I'm excited about the future. And I'm excited to come back maybe in a year or so and share how things are going.
Yeah. And I know you've shared how you define your personal brand is being your authentic you, and you've shared some elements of it as resilience and success. And I keep forgetting the third word
Oh
that you
yeah.
meant.
So I talk about resilience, reading, and relationships. Those are the
Yeah.
core sort of things that have been essential to building my brand over the years. And so I used to call them the pillars of my success. I've kind of slid them as more of the fundamentals, but not necessarily my focal point. Just because I wanted to shift the nature of the environments I spend time in. I don't want to be in places I have to endure. So I've taken resilience as a more of a backseat in how
Yes.
I navigate life.
And your personal brand symbol is a $1 billion bid writer on a coffee mug. Is it
Yes.
like, does it has to be on a mug?
I don't feel like it has to be on a mug. That's something else I'm exploring. Like I was like, would it be cool like on a t-shirt or like a tote bag? So I mean, I think it's more about like the idea of capacity, about measurement of impact and understanding that it's not just money. Like those bids are symbols of communities being built and sometimes changed and shifted, into positive places that people want to be and where they can connect and grow in communities themselves. So it means so much more than the words on the mug. And so for me, like wherever they are, they hold meaning.
Yeah, I think is a captivating statement, and you are most likely to achieve what a personal brand symbol uh, is supposed to achieve. And you've already mentioned people are reaching out asking, "Hey, what is it about? Have you
Yeah.
become a billionaire, and you're not telling us?" And all that.
No. Oh my gosh. I,
Yeah,
I I don't I mean I tease with friends that I'd like to be a billionaire, but I don't know that that is an ethical way to live.
yeah,
And that's the question that is asked. I mean, because there's at some point there is consumption for the sake of consumption and just being opulent, and then there's the opportunity to take that and to reallocate resources. So if I'm a billionaire, believe I'm be giving away a lot of money. like
yeah,
like I'll be like, you get a car, you get a car, and maybe not that wildly, but like I definitely don't know if I want to live in a world where it's acceptable to be a billionaire and people are starving.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. It's not about the only about the money, but it's about once you build what you're building, how do you use it to bring value to the business, to your company, to your friends, and
Yeah.
also to yourself, and how do you serve with it? Because that's
Yeah.
all. That's what is
So I'll let
important.
you in on a little secret. Like back in college, it was my dream to own radio and television stations.
Yeah,
And the reason that I had this dream was because of the impact on the community. This is the first time in my life I went into a place where the person running for, city commissioner or mayor could also walk in the same room as the person who owned the local strip club, and nobody batted an eye. And as much as people might think that's controversial, I think it's important for us to be able to connect folks who we think live on the wrong side of the tracks so that we can build the kind of world we all want to live in together. And that means everybody's voices matter.
yeah, yeah. That's powerful. I think you almost owned your own radio station on with your YouTube.
So, I mean, yeah, the vision has shifted a bit, but the why has not. And so I'm excited to see what comes.
Yes. Okay. So before we wrap up, how can people find you, and what can you share about your upcoming? I know you've shared already, but tell people how they can find you and how they can engage with you in social media.
Okay, so the best place to find me is going to be on LinkedIn. I'm going to make sure that I've got an email address in the bio so you guys can reach me there as well. I I'm always down for a coffee chat. If you want to just ask a question or two, or if you've got opportunities to collaborate, I welcome collaboration. I realize that a vision the size of the one that I carry is not something I can accomplish by myself. So I am looking for a coalition of co-conspirators. So Felix, thank you so much for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure. I thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you very much for taking the time to show up and to share your story. And I know people are going to benefit from this. Anybody watching this, I wish and I hope you take this story and implement something in your life. And I know with doing that, you are going to unlock your unique potential. Your intrinsic value is waiting for you to discover it. Thank you very much. Bye.